Rita Moreira is a Brazilian filmmaker. She's 70 and she's a radical feminist. She had her documentary about tigress. I do not know if everyone knows. She's a feminist, a lesbian feminist, an author, a radical, a wonderful woman. So the thing is, Rita had her documentary about tigress forbidden in 2 movie festivals here in Brazil because of transphobia. One of the questions that Rita made is, what can we do? What can we do, you know, to define, to challenge this transgenderism in Brazil and in the world? I really believe we are on the right way. We are already doing many things and many wonderful things, especially when we think that we almost do not have money. Almost everyone, almost every of us is working for free. We are not owners of televisions. We are not leading the left parties. So I think that this gathering, these women's declarations, our social medias, our books, Sheila's books, are already wonderful. I really think we are on the right way.
Yes, I want to say, because it was a question about the relationship between the Catholic Church and right-wing and queer agenda, and I want to explain my own position and opinion about that field. Catholic Church and right-wing has nothing to do, in my view, with queer agenda. Queer agenda is promoting right now by populism. I mean, in Latin America, in my country particularly, maybe in Brazil as well, that is my reading of the situation, the division, the split between right and wing, between right and left is much less important than the real division in our region, which is between populism and democracy. The queer agenda was promoted by populism in the past decade, by Kirchner in Argentina and by Lula in Brazil, which were a populist government. Now we have a new populist government in Argentina. So our problem is against this populism, and we don't have real democracy and a real democratic culture in our countries. We have a kind of very paternalistic and authoritarian states. That is populism. So this populism ends to be functional to right wing, to neoliberalism. So populism and neoliberalism are very close. They promote finally free market of sexuality, of bodies, hormones and surgeries. So populism and neoliberalism are together in our countries. That is the real promoting of queer agenda. Catholic Church has nothing to do. They are against queer gender ideology, we all know. And the same in right wing, because right wing are more conservative, like now Bolsonaro is the conservative kind. So that is not the problem. The real problem in our countries is populism. That is my opinion. And well, now we have in Argentina the same government than before, which is Kirchner and populist government. So this queer agenda is completely installed in the government, in governmental agencies. The Agency Against Discrimination, the Ministry for Women, all public and governmental institutions belong to them, to trans agenda.
I'll try and be quick because there's 2 lots of links I want to mention. The first is the link with LGB and T. So it's very, very important, I think, to set up groups such as the LGB Alliance. because the whole beauty of being an LGBT movement, which is what all these groups know, is that there's a wave of affection in most countries now for people who are LGB. So you put on the T, you join in this group, nobody notices that your demands are completely unreasonable and unrelated to LGB people, and you make progress. So one of the things I think is to be very aware of that link and the importance of breaking it publicly, clearly, and stating why. We did have a question about how do we stand up against the right and our association with the right, because we're always told that we're funded by Trump supporters and right-wing fascist groups. We have very firm rules on that we won't appear, for example, on panels with anybody that doesn't agree with women's reproductive rights. So abortion is a red line for us. But it's quite obvious to us that political parties, misogyny is not only global, it's apolitical. And we've seen this in the UK with the extreme transgender ideology of the Labour Party, who would be the natural allies of most supporters of what we're talking about here. But they've gone off in a completely indefensible direction. So we find ourselves allied with a Conservative Party, which is most unusual. So I think the point that I was going to make, Joe, and I'll just summarize it. Let's not get bogged down into thinking about political parties or left and right. Let's just hold firm onto our political views, i.e. that we are all anti-fascist. We all support women's reproductive rights, and above all, we must all organize in whatever way is best suited to us in our country or our region. And finally, we must always act globally and all stick together.